Hello, my name is Sheriff Philip Mann. I'm the resident sheriff at Banff Sheriff Court, which is one of two sheriff courts in the Aberdeenshire Council area. Sheriffs have responsibility for the majority of sentencing disposals in the criminal courts in Scotland. We have a large range of disposals available to us, one of the most important of which is the Community Payback Order. This was introduced in 2011 and is designed to enable the courts, in appropriate cases, to punish offenders whilst at the same time supporting them to make changes in the way they live their lives. The aim is to reduce the risk of further offending. If an individual is diverted from a criminal lifestyle, that individual benefits, but just as importantly, so does the community. A community payback order can be structured to suit the individual offender and the individual crime. It can consist of one or more of up to 9 separate requirements, ranging from unpaid work or other activity, through treatment for drugs and alcohol, compensation, regulation of conduct, and advice and assistance by way of supervision. The short film you're about to watch looks at the unpaid work or other activity requirement of a community payback order. An unpaid work or other activity requirement can be imposed for between 20 and 300 hours. A requirement of up to 100 hours is known as a Level 1 requirement and is most commonly imposed as an alternative to a fine. A requirement of between 101 and 300 hours is known as a Level 2 requirement and is imposed as an alternative to a custodial sentence. The unpaid work or other activity is organised by the Criminal Justice Social Work Department of the local authority and must be undertaken within time limits laid down in the legislation. 3 months for a Level 1 requirement and 6 months for a Level 2 requirement, but the Sheriff has power to extend those time limits if need be. I hope that you find this short film informative and helpful. Contact people and their contact details will be shown at the end of the video.
I'm Pat Edward and I live in the village here just over the back of the garden. We moved into Methlick about 10 years ago and we were told about this site here by some of the folk in the village, and they said they needed people to come and help. And so my wife and I both came and we did various things like weeding and so on. And then a raised bed became available. So I took on this raised bed and I worked the raised bed, and eventually, you know, through people leaving and dying and so on, I was asked onto the committee, and then from there I became the chair of the organisation. You know, we tried to develop it as much as we could. I gave up being chair about 2 years ago, and Liz took over, and she has been much more outgoing, and she has managed to rope in a lot more folk like the unpaid people, although we had them before, but she has a much better taking away with her than I have. And it's become a lot, we've got a lot more people around the place and so on. But these young folk, and not so old folk, have come and they have done a lot of the heavy work that we are not able to do because we're all getting a bit on in years. And we're not able, and so they do a fantastic job in moving heavy loads and doing heavy moving of soil and filling up beds and emptying beds and making new beds and all this sort of thing. And they've also done a magnificent job on just tidying the whole place up and making it much more presentable and making it really a place that folk want to come and be and do things and have picnics and have barbecues. And before all this development work was done, you know, like we had a couple of porta cabins where we kept all our stuff and where the toilets were and all that sort of thing, and they were really showing their age, and they needed to be refurbished, and we managed to source lots and lots of wood, and the chaps did a fantastic job, and you'll probably maybe see that, will you? They've done a fantastic job in covering the wood and putting on new doors, and it just makes it's a pleasure to be here now, whereas before it was always a thought to come because there was so much needed to be done. And you know, like us old folk could do a half hour and need to have a sit down.
Hey, I need that.
And I hope they get as much out of it as we do, because you know they're doing a tremendous job for us.
Hi, I'm Liz Allen. I'm chair of Methlick Community Garden here. It's been going just about almost, I think it's 10 years, but it did fall off because we didn't have enough help and people were getting older, and volunteers here have been such an amazing resource, and a lot of the stuff that's here is all down to them and their ideas. Basically demolished some of the really old beds that we had, and then they created new ones. So they've built all the beds that are here, and the beautiful Chinese pagoda with boxes, flower boxes, the long troughs that we now use to encircle the polytunnel, and they've also we got wood chip from a tree surgeon in Ellen, and they basically covered all of that, and they do the strimming and they do all the hard things that basically we pensioners and ones with bad backs and arthritic hands can't do, and without them this place would just be nowhere. It would just be nowhere. They're always willing, they're always polite, and they always have a joke. So it's great to be part of this.
Hello, I'm Lance Darling. I'm one of many task supervisors whilst you conduct your order. Whilst you're on this, you'll conduct a number of projects on ranging from landscaping, painting, decorating to construction jobs, such as the joinery work that you see behind me. We like to help bring people on and try and bring the best of things out of you. A lot of time it probably brings stuff into a zone where you're not a bit uncomfortable with, but we'll try and push you on, bring yourself out of and conduct stuff that you may potentially not really want to do, but end up doing and actually liking it and possibly learning something at the end of it. The future plans here is we're going to try and introduce an outdoor classroom, because there is a lot of children who use this establishment here, and create like wildlife activity kind of fence, so they can come up here, view the wildlife, and run projects of their own at school.
I'm Joan Johnson, and I'm the resident trustee of the Dalgety Castle Trust. We're charged with the upkeep and maintenance of the house, and mainly staffed by volunteers here, because the income that we make goes mostly to the maintenance and the next job of the work to repair or sustain the building as it is today. I'm very grateful for all the work that the Unpaid team do for me here. We've had painting and decorating, grass cutting, digging gardens, cutting down trees. Fantastic. The jobs are never ending. At any given time there's probably 3 of us here, and if we're inside we can't be outside, so outside tends to catch up with you, and when the unpaid team come, we see a marked difference when they've finished things. Sadly, my husband passed away and he did all the gardening here, and nature has taken back everything it owns, and now I want to recreate what used to be there. And with that in mind, we've been preparing an area and then moving plants from an area that we're going to demolish basically and using them. And they've been responsible for helping with that. Well, I always think that I like to treat people the way I would like to be treated myself, and I always provide lunch if it's needed, drinks if it's a warm day, and the coffee and scones go down a treat when people are here. And it's just my way of saying thank you. And I think the people who have been here have always worked twice as hard because they anticipate what they're going to get for their lunch. And it does make a difference, I think. Because I do know in some places they are treated differently, and that's a shame. Everybody deserves a second chance.